want to welcome you all on this Earth Day 2021. And today, as you all know, President Biden is aiming for a 50 to 52% emissions reduction by the year 2030. So we'll be talking about that today. I want to let you know that this is being brought to you by Booktrib, which is the leading source for book news and reviews. And with me today, I have the honor of presenting to you the author of Climate Courage: How Tackling Climate Change Can Build Community, Transform the Economy, and Bridge the Political Divide in America. So I want to welcome to you all now, Andreas Karelas.
Hi, Mary. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you.
Thank you. It's great to have you here. We really appreciate it. So right off the top, let our viewers know, more about your background and what led you to write this book.
Sure. Well, I've been working in the environmental sustainability and climate justice space for about 15 years. Really got started seeing that there were clean energy technologies available, that other parts of the world were starting to implement them. And there really wasn't a lot of clean energy that I saw happening in the United States. And that really got me sort of curious about this back, in college. Why is, this amazing resource that has all this potential not really being deployed here? And I started to read into the politics and the economics of it, and found that there are a lot of sort of interests that are sort of invested in the fossil fuel economy that have held us back really for many, many years. And so that is really what kind of got me into the space. And as I was working in the climate movement, what I felt was that it can be really disempowering if you are not working on the issues. For example, I would, go see a documentary about climate change, and I'd walk out and I'd say, my goodness, what a huge problem this is. How are we supposed to get involved? What can we really do that's going to have an impact? And of course, at the end of the movie, it says, has a list of things you can do, change your light bulbs and put air in your tires and things like this. And, for the average person who just saw, the movie that said, look at how crazy this problem is.
Right.
I don't think putting air in my tires is really going to cut it. I don't think that we're going to get over the hump by doing that. And so that's what kind of led me down this path. And so I started Revolve, which was a nonprofit organization in 2011, which helps basically gives people the tools to bring clean energy, particularly solar panels, to nonprofits in their community. So anyone in the country who's watching this or who cares about climate, who wants to take action locally, we can help you identify, the local nonprofits, whether that's, the school, the homeless shelter, the food bank, the health clinic, your church or house of worship in your community, and help them to go solar and help to tell that story so that more and more people can see the benefits of clean energy. And so the reason I wrote the book is because I felt, doing this work for a long time, I found all these positive and uplifting stories, examples of people doing amazing work in their communities at the local, city, state level that were having real impacts. And I felt like those stories weren't getting told. And so we're often under this narrative that it's this huge problem and it's getting worse by the day, and we're not making much progress. And it is true that it is a huge problem and it is getting worse, and we have to move as quickly as we can. But the other side of the story isn't being told, that we actually do have positive momentum on a lot of the solutions that we need, that the solutions are available to us, that they can create jobs and save us money and improve our health. And we need to kind of point a positive picture. We need to point to a vision of the future that's positive when we solve the climate crisis. And so that was really the point of writing the book.
Right. And I love the title, Climate Courage. I mean, what made you think of that? Are you thinking, Americans or Congress is lacking courage?
Actually, the name of the book came from I was reading a book called Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. I'm sure,
Yeah.
many folks remember that. It's an incredible book, and her whole, message is about, that when we come up with to something that's scary, um, that we have to sort of lean into our vulnerability, right? And that we have to, be vulnerable and and sort of approach a problem from a place of bravery and courage, despite the fact that it's so scary, right? Because what Americans and the world has generally done is, gosh, this problem is so scary. I'm going to turn away from it. I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to bury my head in the sand. I'm not going to talk about it. And so what she, is kind of encouraging us to do in all aspects of our lives is, face the fear and be vulnerable and kind of walk into it, sort of open-heartedly. And yeah, I was reading that book, and of course I'd been working in climate for a long time, and yeah, just oh yeah, we should approach climate change from a place of courage, from a place of bravery. Not to say that it's not a problem. It is a problem. It's a huge problem, but we can solve it. We have the solutions. We have the grit. We have the tenacity. We can do something about this. Let's get off the couch and make something happen. So that's kind of where it came from.
Right, exactly. And in terms of today's headline with President Biden and the summit online today, I mean, what's your perspective? I mean, you're a very positive, uplifting person, and going after this whole mission with Revolve and everything that you do. I mean, given the partisan bickering in Congress and everything, and what we're dealing with to try to pass the infrastructure bill, what's your sense? I know you're deep down, you are an optimist that something has got to give, right?
Yeah, no, I think, what President Biden and his administration have done so far is absolutely phenomenal. He has, and I think it's also important to note that Joe Biden was not always a climate hawk. He was not somebody that the climate movement saw as a very strong climate leader, but he changed, and he became much more passionate about climate because of the movement, because the climate justice movement pushed him, and said, "This is what's important, and we need this. It's now or never." And he heard that message, and he really did incorporate that into his plan, before he was elected, and now that he's in office, the people who he's selected to be a part of his administration are all, long-standing, climate and clean energy leaders, and what he's doing now in terms of rejoining the Paris Agreement, right off the bat.
Hmm.
The infrastructure bill that he's putting forward is the most significant climate legislation we've ever seen, ever.
Right.
It's that forward thinking, and so that's really the type of ambitious action that we wanted to see from a president. And now what's happening today, with this summit, where he's invited 40 international leaders to talk about climate change. He's really trying to say to the world, look, the United States was out of the climate fight for the last however many years,
Right.
but we're back, right? And we plan on playing a leadership role, and the goal of saying, yeah, we're going to reduce our emissions 50% by 2030. That's bold. I mean, that's bold. It's ambitious. It's on target with what we need. And yes, the Congress question is going to be a hurdle, and how the politics plays out. But I do think that what the Biden administration and what the rest of the world should know is that, and this was really the biggest finding of the book, is that Americans are on board with climate solutions. 2/3 of Americans understand that climate change is real and is caused by humans. We're seeing it happen in our communities. We're seeing the fires, we're seeing the floods and the hurricanes, and people are realizing we need to address the problem, number one. But number two, 85% of Americans are in favor of 100% clean energy, right?
Right.
How many issues do 85% of Americans agree on in this polarized world that we're living in, or this polarized, moment in American history? So the fact that of all the issues, that clean energy is one thing that everybody agrees on, red and blue across the political spectrum, should give the Biden administration the sort of, the confidence that they should move forward however they can to make these goals happen. And it should give the international leaders who are attending this conference that confidence that, okay, we understand, that yes, there's still some, members of Congress that are, bought by the fossil fuel industry, that are unable to, move forward with this, but that the American public is fully on board with climate solutions.
Right. No, I found that really amazing, and you really do truly cover a lot of territory in this book. And let's step back for a moment in terms of the writing process. I mean, it's your first book. What was your experience in terms of how long it took and the research involved? Who inspired you? What environmental organizations inspired you to write?
Yeah, well, when I was in college, I was waiting tables at a restaurant in DC called Kramer Books. It's a bookstore slash restaurant, and it's called Kramer Books. And so I was waiting tables, and I would pop over. When I had a break, I'd pop over to the bookstore section, and I'd look at the bookshelves. And I was an economics major, and there was a book on the shelf that I looked at every time, and it was by a guy named Lester Brown, and it was called Eco Economy, and it was basically this concept of we can, redesign our economy to be in line with sustainability. And Lester Brown was, one of the leading, pioneering environmentalists, of the 20th century, and that book, reading that book changed the course of my life. Right? It really, it made clear to me, this is what my path is. This is what I want to do with my life and with my career. So to me, and I've read a number of books since then that have, really just changed my thinking and sort of given me, purpose and inspiration. So to me, I hope that the book can do that for other people, right? I mean, to me, it's like I've been so influenced by reading, these powerful environmental books that I thought, okay, let me put out my interpretation now, having been in the movement for a while, so that other people can read it and hopefully be influenced by that. In terms of the writing process, I mean, gosh, I've had, the thoughts and ideas behind climate courage for many, many years. It was about 2 years ago or more, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, when I was meeting with one of my board members, a guy named Clint Wilder. He's also an author, the author of two books. One was called Clean Tech Nation, and the other is called Clean Tech Revolution. And Clint, basically I was telling him about my ideas for a book, and he had obviously written two books, and we were kind of talking about that. And at some point he said, hey, I think your book is a good idea. Why don't I connect you with my agent? And he connected me with my agent, who at Riverside in New York. And so we started a journey at that time where uh, you know I was learning every day, what the process was, putting a proposal together, presenting it to Beacon, and other, publishers. And I have to say that, it basically took about 2 years from start to finish in terms of, sort of putting a proposal together, to getting the deal, to writing. One of the things I found was that during the writing process, the advice I was told was, oh, wake up and write every day, and early, first thing in the morning. And I tried that a little bit, but really what I found was I had to go away and sort of block out sort of time, 4 days here, 8 days there, and sort of write in chunks, because that was really the only time that I could kind of get into a flow and get the words out on the page. So, but yeah, it was an incredible, it was challenging and also really rewarding, and I was really, really pleased with the result that came out.
Yeah, it is. It's a very accessible book. I found it wonderful to read. Can you speak to the whole psychology bit about when you're talking about fear, that whole thing? Because that section of the book was really interesting.
Yes, absolutely. One of the issues that I had seen, looking at the movement, was that all of these messages around climate are focused on doom and gloom, right? Even today, I can look at my social media, and it's one, bad news story after the other about climate change, and it can be depressing, and it can be, really disempowering. Oh my goodness, it's getting worse and worse. And that, even though that's true, right? It's not that it's not that any of these are hyperbole, right? Like, the ice caps are melting, right? The impacts are being felt. But if that's all we focus on, then psychologically we just want to curl up on the couch and put the blanket over our head, right? It's really quite scary and overwhelming. So the psychology of it is that, there's this whole field called positive psychology, and there are leading scientists, one of whom, her name is Barbara Fredrickson, and what she points out is that when we, you know evolutionarily, when we are faced with danger, our mind focuses very narrowly on the moment, and it's fight or flight. um, we're not thinking about, if a saber-toothed tiger is behind us, we're not thinking about what's for lunch tomorrow, right? Like, we are focused
That's
right
natural.
here. Yeah. And yet, when we are in a sort of positive, optimistic state of mind, our mind is more open to creativity. It's more flexible. It's more innovative, and so and ultimately, we're more motivated to take action when we see that we can have a result. When we can take an action and we can have a result, that's the other, aspect. There was a study from George Mason that said, if people are told about climate change and they're not told about solutions or ways that they can get involved,
Mhm.
they are likely to disbelieve that climate change is real. Whereas when they are told there's this problem of climate change and here are solutions that you can help play a role in, they are more likely to believe the science that climate change is real. And this is, goes into this whole concept of agency or empowerment, that we ourselves can play a role in solving the problem. So to me, that's the most important thing. We have to frame the problem that it is solvable. And we have to reach the emotional part of our brain. That's the other big piece of it, is that the environmental movement, and most folks in general, when we're trying to convince somebody of something, we're appealing to their rational mind. We're trying to give them data and facts and figures. Well, look, if we don't hit 350 parts per million, this is going to happen, right? But the irony is that the part of our brain that actually makes most of our decision making, and sort of decides what we're going to think and believe about something, is our emotional part of our brain. So we actually have to first appeal to our emotions. Why is this important? Why should I care? Why? How does this reach, my heart, as opposed to just my mind? And that's through stories, and it's through emotional connection to things that people already care about. What are their values? Why should they care about the environment? As opposed to, let me go through the latest scientific study. So it's another important thing that we, as people who care about the environment, need to realize when we're trying to reach new audiences, and when we're trying to sort of, raise awareness. We have to first focus on the why. We have to first focus on connecting with someone's values at an emotional level before appealing to their rational mind.
Right. Absolutely. And what do you really want people to take away from the book? I mean, I'm sure there's more than one theme that you want to stress to them.
Yeah, I think it's that climate solutions are here, that I think we are moving to a 100% clean energy economy around the world. Even without policy, it's already happening. The economics are clear as day. Uh, even the fossil fuel industries have predicted that, by mid-century, if not sooner, we will be predominantly clean energy powered. And that's just because the economics are better, right?
Right.
The costs of clean energy are continuing to drop. The resource, the sun and the wind is free. You can't compete with free, right? You could dig up, the far reaches of the earth, but you can't compete with free. So that's where we're at economically, and that's going to change everything. Now, the question is, can we do that fast enough, right? Can we do that in the next 10 to 15 years significantly, such that we can reduce carbon impact as quickly as possible and avoid the worst of climate change? So to me, the big takeaway is climate change is not a question of economics or uh, technology. We have the technology, and the economics speaks for themselves. That part of the solution is there. It's really a question of the politics and the culture, the social aspects. That's what we need to be evolving in order to move forward quickly enough. And how do you do that? You do that by realizing, number one, that we're already all on the same page. 85% of us are already in agreement. Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. People get clean energy. Yeah, it makes sense for me to use free clean energy that doesn't require reliance on foreign oil or anything else, or dirty coal or anything else, right? People get that. So the main message is, talk to your neighbor, about this. Find your commonality, find your common ground. Let's stop pointing fingers at the other side, and let's get to work at sort of bridging the divide, talking to each other, finding common ground, because there is a lot of common ground there, and that way we can start building momentum towards solutions.
Right. Um, we're getting a little short on time, so I want to be sure that we talk about Revolve, which is re-volv.org for the public out there watching. Tell us about this phenomenal nonprofit of yours.
Thanks, Mary. Revolve is a nonprofit that helps other nonprofits go solar. So if you think about all the nonprofit organizations in the country, like food banks and homeless shelters, schools, health clinics, you name it, YMCA's, art centers. Um, these are all places that actually have a particularly difficult time going solar. The traditional ways of financing solar don't apply to them for a number of reasons, because they are nonprofit organizations, and most of them don't have the upfront capital to pay for it out of pocket.
Mhm.
So Revolve has developed a way to provide financing for these organizations so that they can go solar for free, start saving money on their electricity bills, and then use that savings to benefit the community, to put that back into the people who they're serving. So, we've financed solar at this point for close to 50 nonprofit organizations in 10 states across the country. And those organizations are saving $17 million on their electricity bills that they're going to put back into their mission. So that, to me, is really, it's the win-win, because it's not just solving the climate crisis and deploying clean energy, and telling those stories and getting more people excited about solar, but it's also helping the nonprofits that are serving people in need, and it's a win-win. It's both uplifting people that really need the services that the nonprofits provide, as well as deploying clean energy. So yeah, we're actually this afternoon we've got a ribbon cutting event at a nonprofit here in San Francisco. We're going over to a place called Project Arto, and it is it's an affordable living artist workspace and living center, and that's been around for 50 years. They're actually celebrating their 50th anniversary today, and they've been housing artists for half a century that have made incredible contributions to the city. So yeah, we're excited. We put up a nice big solar system there, and excited to go over and celebrate that this afternoon.
Well, congratulations on that. That's
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
So can you give me another shining example of one of the 10 projects that was memorable or, meaningful for the public?
Yeah, and actually, yeah, close to 50 projects. Yeah,
Oh,
in
wow.
10 states. Yeah, I mean, another example is here in East Oakland, for example. There's a African American church called Faith Baptist Church. It's been around for 40 years. And the pastor, Pastor Curtis Robinson, a friend of mine at this point, had come to me at a conference. And he said, "Look, I really want to make sure that my community is receiving the benefits of solar, and how can we make this work?" So, we brought solar to Faith Baptist. They're saving 50% on their electricity bills, and what they do, which is so incredible, in addition to sort of being a pillar in the community, they have a food giveaway program where they give out every Sunday. They give out food in their parking lot. People line up, down the block to get free food, and they give out over 100 tons of food every year to people in East Oakland who are food insecure. So the fact that they're now saving 50% on their electricity costs, which they can put back into their food program and serving the community, is just a really it's exciting, and it's good to see that solar can help people directly in that way.
Right, exactly. And then the other website that we want to highlight is the climatecourage.us,
Yeah,
because people can get your book that way, right?
yes, yeah, climatecourage.us. You can check out. There are some reviews about the book. Obviously, links. Anywhere you would think of buying a book, you can buy the book, but there are some links there. To various websites. There's also we've set up a program called Climate Courage Circles, where
Right.
if you want to meet with people, who have read the book or in your community and talk about what you can do locally around climate change, you can sign up there or start a Climate Courage Circle. And I also have actually some additional information that actually I couldn't put in the book because it was too long, that I put on the website. So basically, as an individual, I've laid out a number of things that you can do depending on where you are in your life. If you're a teacher, if you're work in an office, if you are a member of your community, etc. If you're a high school student or K through 12, various walks of life, I've laid out some different strategies of how to take action on climate there on the website, climatecourage.us.
Yeah. Okay. And then is there any passage of the book that you want to mention that was meaningful? I know towards the end, the Martin Luther King quote was meaningful to me, but I just didn't know if you wanted to mention anything else about the book and what are your favorite ways people can take action?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the the beginning and end of the book really talk about the psychology of how we need to shift towards a positive story, and and the end is really talking about uh, how we can improve our lives while we fight climate change. And I think that's the big message that needs to be told, is that we think about climate change as, well, I'm going to have to make all these sacrifices, and it's going to be, it's going to hurt the economy, and I'm going to have to give up things I like. And that's actually not true. The reality is that the things that we would do to improve our lives, sort of spend more time with our friends, our family, eat healthier, hoard less stuff, and the like, be more creative, spend less time working and more time with our families. That all of the, bike ride more, all of these things not only improve our quality of life, but they also have a beneficial impact on the climate. And that's, I think the win-win is that's how we get us to move off of this. We've been told that it's solving climate change is an inconvenient truth, right? It's going to inconvenience us, but I think we need to switch that narrative to say, oh no, actually we can improve our lives and our communities and our economy, and be healthier, happier people, through this process. So that's really the main takeaway. And yeah, I would encourage people to, go to the website, get a copy of the book, and read the solutions in there, all the nonprofit organizations that I tell stories about, that are and companies that are doing amazing work. Check those things out, and get involved. Talk about climate change with your neighbors. Think about what you can do locally, and just take action, whatever it is. Get started and build some momentum.
Yeah, exactly. And I meant to, real quick, I meant to mention the Solar Ambassador Program, if you want to mention that.
Yes. Yeah. So as Mary mentioned, Revolve works across the country, and we train volunteers to go out into the community and help the local nonprofits go solar. And that program is called our Solar Ambassador Program. We have a lot of college students in the program, but it's not exclusive to college students. People of any age, younger, older, can take action. Get together with a couple friends, and if you know a local nonprofit, maybe it's your kid's school or your house of worship or a place you volunteer, the YMCA, go talk to them about going solar, and we will help you through that process, and you can lead that campaign in your community.
All right. Any final thoughts before we go?
No, and that's revolve.org, re-volv.org, to sign up there. My final thoughts are, climate change is not a taboo subject, like religion or money or politics, that we can't talk about. We can talk about it. More people agree with you than you realize. So go out, talk about it, bring up this in conversations with people, and the more we talk about it, the more we'll shift the narrative and start taking action, and get some positive momentum behind us as quickly as possible.
All right. Thank you again so much for joining us. Again, that was Andreas Karelas of Climate Courage. So get your copy today. Again, that website is climatecourage.us. And again, Mary Regan, literary publicist with Merrill Moss Media, want to thank you on behalf of booktrib.com for joining us today. So do something great for the planet, plant a tree, whatever, and get involved to help the world. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.